man-to-man coverage. 4th and 3. Game on the line. Williams lofting one for a dude. He caught it! He caught it!
Kamara in at tailback. He's got 5 rushing touchdowns. And now 6. Tied for the most all time.
You're listening to the world's #1 football podcast. Now, with more insights on all things football, here are your hosts, Ben Hansen, Matt Hartman, and Ryan Matthews.
All right, we got a fun episode. We got news as we always do, diving into our last positional group for y'all, and then a mock draft at the end. But before we get started and all of that, how you doing, Matt?
I'm doing good, Ben. Long day. If you're a viewer, long-time viewer, I mean, just hug your pets because it's not fun to have to, put one down today. But I'm here today. I want this to be something that takes me out of that mindset so I could just talk some players with my buddy and let's talk some ball.
Yes, it's going to be a lot of fun, and sorry to hear about that. We can dive right into the news here. First big stuff, where 2 extensions got signed this past week. That's Geno Smith, 2 years, $85 million. So that just works out to be $42.5 per. And then Trey McBride resetting the tight end market at 4 years, $46 million, and that is I don't know what the math on that works out, but 4 years, $46 million. So he gets his bag as well. Your thoughts on either contract there?
Yeah, I mean, the Geno contract was inevitability because you don't trade a pick to just have him for a 1-year rental. Looking at the way the contract structure is they can get out of it after year 2 or after year 1 into year 2. Year 2, they would have to eat about $20-ish million of dead money. If they make it to year 3, then they would save like $40 million cutting him in year 3. So this is essentially a 2-year contract, including this year. So I think this just stabilizes the course. I think it gives them an option, an avenue to get someone in the draft they like, or just, kick it down the can one more year and see how this season goes and maybe re-up Geno again. Who knows? And then McBride.
$76 million.
Yeah.
Yes, I said those numbers wrong. Sorry.
It was a long time coming for McBride. I think he's one of the more underrated tight ends. Late in the season, I don't know how many people were watching Cardinals football, but there was a lot of offense being run through Trey McBride last year, like over Marvin Harrison Jr., who was the 4th overall pick. So overall, McBride has been one of the more underrated tight ends, and to see him paid the way that he is, I mean, a lot of people are going to say, highest annual tight end. That's not. Just calm down. The market will start to shift itself. So, but I thought this was a proper deal.
Yes, no, I thought it was a proper deal too. And when you look at kind of the tight end position group as a whole, you look at these top guys, and they're aging, and I don't want to say all of them are on their way out, but you have a George Kittle who's getting up there. You have Travis Kelce, who probably is going to retire at the end of the year. Mark Andrews is kind of hitting his limits. And then that's when you start discussing Trey McBride. So I think it only made sense to give him his deal. And like you said with Geno, I mean, you trade him, or when you trade for him, you know that you are going to pay him that contract, because that is the whole reason Seattle let him go in the first place, is because they didn't want to pay him, which is funny because, that average per year actually works out pretty similar to what Sam Darnold was. I guess the goal for the Seahawks was to get younger. That's kind of the but I think Geno's still the better quarterback. So it was an interesting decision for them, especially when you look at the way the contracts break down and everything. So and then we saw one of our first trades in a very long time. Sadly, it wasn't a very big trade. That was Joe Milton getting traded to the Cowboys. The Cowboys got Joe Milton and a 7th-round pick, and they ended up trading their 5th. So they essentially swapped their 5th and 7th for Joe Milton. From the Cowboys' perspective, it didn't make much sense. I guess go out and get a backup. They didn't really have a backup quarterback, but it just didn't make much sense to me. And then from the Patriots' perspective, I mean, good on them for finding a home that he wanted to go and play at. But I mean, the reports are that there were better trade offers on the table for Joe, but they kind of allowed him to pick a little bit of his spot. So very interesting. Your thoughts on the trade for either team?
Yeah, I mean the Cowboys being in the business for a backup quarterback, with a pick that could be used on a cheap contract. That was my biggest thing with Dallas is they need to get cheap contracts because we've harped on this podcast that they're going to pay Micah Parsons the most amount of money possible on Labor Day weekend. They've already paid CD, they've already paid Dak, so they need cheap budget options, and I just don't think a backup quarterback with a 1-game sample size is a worthwhile deal to make. And then on the Patriots, I think the Patriots did the best they could. I mean, they upgraded because they used the 6th-round pick on Milton last year. They get a 5th-round pick, so they theoretically upgrade. They get Milton out of the room to really, alleviate the pressure if there was any on Drake May. But Milton picking the Cowboys, that was fascinating. Maybe he just wants to play for the star on his helmet. I don't know, but there is no avenue to him starting anytime soon there, regardless of what LaShawn McCoy says. But yeah, man, I think overall it's a trade. It happened. Let's move on.
Yeah, I don't think it was league shattering, earth shattering by any sense of the word there. And then we just have two kind of final tidbits on wide receivers. One I wanted to nip in the butt, but maybe it's bigger than what I originally first thought it was. Rumors are Tyreek Hill is maybe on the shopping block there. Eagles have been linked to him. Nip that one in the butt for sure. There's no way that's going to happen. They already have a lot of money invested into that wide receiver room. It wouldn't make much sense to go and get Tyreek Hill at that point. And that one didn't make just the Tyreek Hill stuff in general didn't make much sense to me because he is essentially their whole offense. Given there's some outside of football stuff kind of going on with Tyreek Hill, he obviously has a bit of a pass with stuff, and more stuff has risen. But he's on the trade block there, and then Julio Jones officially retired. You said it best when we talked. I don't know why people are making a huge deal. It kind of felt like he's already retired at this point. Like, I guess you made it official, but yeah, your thoughts.
He was retired when he was wearing number 80 for the Eagles. I don't know how many yards he had that season. It had to be like less than like 400, but that was an interesting time with Julio Jones. But no, Tyreek Hill, if he were to get traded, I have one suitor. It's Kansas City. I think the only team that would be able to deal with his nonsense, and yes, I call it nonsense at this point, is Kansas City, and I think they have a winning culture, dealt with it before. And if you can get him on the cheap end and you kind of run this thing back and you get him to buy in, it can make sense. But everybody else, I would not want culture, personally. I would not want to bring in someone who is on the wrong side of 30, continues to be a problem, and every other week it seems like, I want to be traded. I want to be out of Miami. He's the only person ever to want to be out of Miami, so...
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that develops over the course. I'm wondering what his price tag would be. Like, I'm wondering if the Dolphins just throw their hands up, say we're just trying to get off of him, move off the field stuff with him, and I'm wondering if like he gets traded for like a 2nd or 3rd round pick at that point. Because I can't see him going for 31st. Let's say if it is the Chiefs. So if he does get moved, it'll be interesting to see what
went for a 3.
Exactly. So it'll be interesting to see what his price tag is,
Before we
when.
move, I have a little bit of more news on here.
Yes.
The Titans pretty much confirmed they're going to be taking Cam Ward. Did you see this? Titans and Shador, they cancel the private workout. They kind of mutually agreed upon. It wasn't a one side or the other thing. Teron Armstead, Saints legend, retired. That makes 13 more interesting with the tackles that we talk about, because he was always he's a starter, and now they are the only tackle that they have signed this offseason is Larry Borum, and that's a 5th-round rookie from a few years ago, man. Like, that's depth. So it makes tackle and play a lot at 13. NFL draft, like, I'm not going to go through all of them, but prospects are meeting their and taking their top 30 visits. So that's intriguing to see what players are going where, and who's going to go where. And then the Panthers, you see this? The Panthers signed a Coastal Carolina basketball player, a 6'8" Colin Granger. They signed him to play tight end. No idea who this guy is. But, hey, maybe we have a Mo Alley Cox. And then, lastly, the 2022 first-rounders are now eligible to have their fifth-year options exercised. Only Trayvon Walker so far has had his picked up. Stingley, in theory, had his picked up because he signed that extension. But names that you would know of are going to get picked up. I can guarantee it. It's Aiden Hutchinson, Trent McDuffie, Drake London, Garrett Wilson, and Kyle Hamilton are the 5 names that I looked at that I can guarantee those guys are going to get exercised. But that was just a little extra tidbits of news that I had.
Yes, well, and the Trayvon Walker one's interesting because there's been a lot of news swirling around over the last couple months about him getting traded. Mm-hmm. And I would think if they wanted to re-sign him to a long-term deal, they would have done it by now, especially when exercising that 5th-round option or 5th-year option. Again, it's just another name to watch on draft day. This is going to pan out to be one of the more interesting drafts, just in terms of movement and trades up and down the board. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up materializing with Trayvon Walker and trades and stuff. Keep an eye out for that stuff, guys. And then we will move on to the last positional ranking here. It's kind of a combination of safeties and cornerbacks here. It was a long, at times tedious road to get here, and part of me is sad that it's over, but part of me is a little bit joyful that I can allocate a little bit more of my time elsewhere rather than watching upper like 120 prospects at this point. But it's been a fun ride to have you lockstep with me on at least doing this year. This is the first time that we've really dug deep into class. So, but in terms.
I think the word you use, tedious, is the best word. But I mean, you find your gems. You find what we talk about next week. When you do this. So this was just exciting, man.
Yes, very fun. In terms of this, we just had 15 guys because Lord knows the cornerback position is always one of the very deep positions in any draft. So we probably could have done 15 to 20 cornerbacks on their own. And then again, we sprinkled in some of the top safeties for you guys as we do this. Were there a couple guys that didn't quite crack your top 15 that you wanted to mention?
Yeah, so I ended up having like 18 write-ups on guys. One is not ranked. You know who that player is. I have him as a receiver. But Yeah, three guys that just missed the cut for me. Upton Stout out of Western Kentucky, Noel Williams out of Cal, and then Kobe Bryant out of Kansas. Were three that just missed the cut for me, but yeah, I have 17 guys here that excited to talk about.
Yes, I just did a top 15, and then as you said, two write-ups. The one that I was disappointed that I didn't watch more of was Jacob Parrish. I think he would have made the list for my last safety here, and I think he could have replaced him. So I was a bit disappointed that I didn't get the chance to watch him. But is he on your list?
Oh, absolutely.
No. All right. Oh, absolutely. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I was disappointed, but we'll get into him. So we'll hear him. We'll start off with my 15. That's Dorian Strong out of Virginia Tech. Just the kind of guy that I absolutely fall in love with. I have a type of player that I really like, and as the course of this ranking goes on, it'll become more and more clear if you guys aren't too familiar with that type of player, and that's really your true man corners that like to gamble, and that is pretty much the textbook definition of Dorian Strong. Again, out of Virginia Tech, I think he showed good speed and acceleration. Again, a true man outside corner. They left him on an island pretty much for the majority of the season. They trusted him. They said, put you on the number one guy. Go lock him down. Go do whatever you need to do. And he shows really good hand-fighting ability with being that true press man corner, which you really want to see out of someone. And then kind of the first pro/con is he's a gambler, man. He really likes to jump those routes, make a play on the ball, and sometimes it's a really, really big plus for him. He gets a pass breakup, an interception and stuff. There are other times where he gets caught jumping on a double route, and the wide receiver's just absolutely gone. So that's that first con is his gambling. I don't think he is the quickest of athletes. His change of direction is definitely worrisome for me. I think he's grabby, which you'll see a lot from these press man corners. And then for a guy his size, I would have liked to see him show more in terms of the run game support. He just didn't do it as much as I would have liked. But that's Dorian Strong for me. Where do you have him? Who's your 15?
I had him at 14, so one spot ahead. The pros, I thought smooth technician with the foot skills to stay in phase with what I called enough ball skills. Not like elite, not really, really good, but enough to pass as a boundary player in the next level. He had a strong and noticeable IQ in zone and when needing to match in man coverage. And then later into his career, he became a willing tackler for me. And then the cons, you mentioned pretty much all of them. Modest to subpar athlete, fine long speed in the hips, and the change of direction ability was a minus. Can get beat because of limitation, and because of those limitations, will get handsy because of it. Play strength was noticeable. A noticeable minus in stuff, and he started jamming guys at the line of scrimmage. He got beat off the spot multiple times. And then lastly, you mentioned it, the number one, will gamble in space, trying to undercut too often was what I said. But everything you said, I completely agree. But this is a guy that I think in a pinch is going to be someone that plays in the NFL, because I think the IQ in zone is something that someone is going to value in the NFL.
Nice. And who's your 15?
We'll save him.
Oh, no. There's no way you have him ranked that low. That's going to make me cry. I knew you said you were lower on him, but 15 hurts my soul just a little little bit. It'll make sense because this player will be much.
Do you want me to run through my 16 and 17 real quick?
Yeah, run through your 16 and 17.
So 16, I had Lathan Ransom out of Ohio State. He is what you see is what you get. Downhill physical athlete mixed with inspired mentality and a noticeable motor. He was strong at the point of attack, and he tackles through contact. Good burst out of his stance when a blitzer. And then, he's a box safety through and through. And then the cons, limited range as a deep coverage player, not a fluid mover, heavy-footed when needed to change in direction in zone and man match. And he'll try and line up tackles and it works to the running back's advantage because he's trying to size you up, and guys who are just noticeably bouncy, especially this running back class, noticeable bouncy running backs are just going to feast on what he's doing there. And then 17, I really thought I was going to like this player more. Quincy Riley out of Louisville, the pros, good fluid athlete with body control, flashes the ball skills and high point attack, and he's a good man-to-man cover corner. But the cons were just enough for me to just push him down. Recovery speed is limited, mixing with long speed to stay ahead of deep routes. The zone location, it was fine to subpar at times. He just did not have the overall IQ and fundamentals that I would want out of a guy playing boundary. And then lastly, he was just a slow reactor to things. Just overall, the athlete is there, and I would see someone taking Riley over some of the guys I have in here, but it's just the cons were enough for me to push him down this far.
Yes, him, Upton Stout, Quincy Riley, and Jacob Parrish were the four guys that I had tagged to watch. I had some computer issues, didn't really get a chance to watch all of them. So, but yeah, he's a they rave about. But interesting to see him a little bit lower on your board than maybe what consensus might have him. Number 14 for me was a guy that, again, kind of found his way onto the list. And one, how much of it is, again, because I didn't get a chance to watch the other guys on this list. That's Sebastian Castro. A super fun watch, a guy that I've had my eye on for at least the last year, especially watching Cooper DeJean. Some people thought he was going to come out this past year, but now he is now. I think he's just a tough, gritty safety. He's a good tackler, shows upside within the run support, plays with a high motor, has a very quick trigger when it comes to diagnosing run plays and even pass plays, and takes a good angles when it comes to tackling. I think there's a lot of cons, though, when you switch over to his athletic upside. He just, I don't know if he has the athletic upside, the speed, change of direction ability to play man. And there was some heavy question marks for me when watching him about his zone awareness. He could do it, but he had there were a lot of times on tape when he was asked to run his zone defense where he would lock onto one guy in his zone and watch him run across his entire zone. And as he's watching that, someone else comes into his zone and they get the pass. So his zone awareness was not there for me at all. And you would like to see higher than that for someone who's been playing for 5 or 6 years at this point. And then him just being small, it really hurts him in the block shedding category. Even when your tight ends get on him, he really struggles to get off those blocks and get his nose to the football there. I think he projects as a fun, high IQ for the most part, run support safety, but does have those physical question marks that might make him get off the field on your more pass happy downs.
Yeah, he didn't make my list just based on the sole fact that I don't think he's athletic enough to play nickel at the next level. Like overall, he's going to be a 25-year-old rookie with just limited athletic tools, and like he's short, but he's like broad, and then you look at his weight and he's like 200 pounds. So it's just he's an awkward frame already filled out. A guy he's going to get drafted. I have no doubt about it, but I'm not banking on that guy sticking around a long time. He'll be around for a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Who is your prospect 13?
Darian Porter out of Iowa State. So Porter is fascinating because Porter just are you in the business of throwing a dice roll? That's how I feel about Darian Porter, because I know you love this guy, and it makes sense because you love Tyreek Woolen, and those guys have very similar histories. Long, explosive boundary corner. The ball skills at the point of attack are modeled after his brief receiver career. He has good IQ and will get into correct leverage pre-snap. The cons, he can run, but long strider mixed with mediocre short area agility and change of direction ability gives me hesitance. The run defending is a minus. He gets stuck on blocks way too often, and then he whiffs in the open field because of the area, like because of the short area stuff. And then last, I just put old. He's going to be 25, and it's still a work in progress. So you still have to gamble on him, but I'm willing to give his traits a shot more so than, some other guys in this class, because I think I see what he can be, and I think what he can be is very valuable in the NFL.
Yes, I have him ranked much higher, to no one's shock, at least definitely not yours. And for me, it really is those physical traits. I have him ranked in front of guys that most people know, one of your guys in particular. And it really is that dice roll gambling on the physical traits that he has. You touched on it. It's heavy shades of Tyreek Woolen when watching this guy. I think he has an amazing combination of size, speed, and length. He ran a 4.3 at the combine. He's 6'3". His arm lengths came just over 33.5-inch arms. So it really is just a gamble of taking this athlete and seeing what he can do with that. But I think he has a smooth transition from back pedal to turning around and carrying that route down the field. As you said, he has some very good ball skill abilities. A lot of that probably translates from that wide receiver background that he has. And then I think he's a physical tackler. That being said, he does not have good tackling technique. That is my first minus. He can hit people hard, but he really needs to work on getting those pads down, aiming for the hip, and fully wrapping around the defender. As you said, I think he has really tight hips, and I think a lot of that probably stems from those long strides. That really affects that lateral quickness that he has. As you said, 25, and then just the limited snaps at corner. He wasn't asked to play corner until like week 16 or week 6 of the 2024 season. I think he has just over 500 snaps at the position. So he is a very, very raw prospect. And again, as you said, it really comes down to the dice roll. Do you prefer a smarter technician corner who's been doing it for a long time? Or do you trust your cornerback room, your cornerback coach to really put the pieces together and turn this guy into something special? And I'm more so of the camp, especially within this position. Bet on the physical traits, and hopefully someone can piece together the kind of mental aspects of the game. And that kind of shows at least a sizable gap between 13 and 8 that we have on this prospect here. My 13 was a guy that we talked about privately. That's Maxwell Hairston. I like him. He's not down on this list because I am lower on him than a prospect. I understand why people like him. I don't quite understand the first round buzz. I think a lot of that probably has to come from the 4.28 that he ran at the combine. But it really is just a matter of I like guys more than him, and that's why he finds himself all the way down at 13. Again, he's a great athlete, as that 4.28 shows at the combine. That long speed is obviously there. That's one that the playing speed does translate to the running speed, which we don't always see. I think he has very loose and oily hips, which is very good, and he has good ball skills. Play strength is a very big question mark for me. His ability to match man on man on the outside is a question mark. I'm not quite ruling out the possibility of him being able to do it. He just was never asked to do it at all at Kentucky. Again, a lot of quarters looks for him. So he just wasn't asked to man up. I think he has a very thin frame and then just open field tackling. Again, I think he's a great athlete, but just lacks kind of the physical. And I think he could struggle against those more physical wide receivers like a Mike Evans or a Drake London or something in that category. So that's why he finds himself all the way down to 13 for me.
I had him at 9. Like, he's lengthy for his size. He's like 5'11", 180. I think that's what he weighed at the combine.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an explosive athlete, body type, with, again, enough ball skills, as I mentioned before. I think he's willing to get dirty in the press department. That was one of my takeaways with him, is that, yes, you are correct. Like, he didn't do it often, but he showed that willingness. And then I have a kind of double-edged sword here. He has good backfield vision, and zone makes him a very opportunity-based ball producer. But also in the cons, I have backfield vision gets him in trouble because he is watching and will lose track of the route and just naturally be in trouble because he's losing the space behind him because he's watching the quarterback. He ran 4.29, 4.28. But even then, he got into rough situations downfield, way more than someone like Porter, who ran identical. And, it was just interesting to see that, like, yeah, you can run 4.2, but I'm not seeing it. And then lastly, he was all caps problem in run defense. Play strength, effort, the motor was severely missing. It hurts his stock because, the size could be a problem for some teams as a boundary, and if you're not showing that, I'm gonna get dirty on this play in the run defense category, I think that could really hurt him. But no, I think 9 is a good spot for him, and I don't even disagree
Absolutely.
with your 13.
Yeah. Who is your DB12?
Andrew Makuba, hook 'em horns.
Ooh.
Yeah, so this is one of my guys, man. Pros, he's a good athlete in space, shows twitch and urgency getting to landmarks as a safety. Good ball tracking with, a quarterback watching intent, shows off his vision and his IQ, and he has a willing motor and a tackler when getting downhill. The biggest con of them all is he is thin and he has a tight frame, and it's not going to be on everyone's board for an NFL caliber safety. And then he doesn't make up for it in a supreme athlete department. The speed, the range, it just doesn't make up for his frame. And then lastly, the length also hurts the margin for error in open field tackling. Can get shrugged off and with nothing to do about it in space. I thought that was something that was really noticeable in the tackling department. But I think Makuba is a straight standard free safety. Again, another one of these guys that starts in a pinch, and he was just someone at Texas that always found the football. Like, I think this is me as a Texas fan kind of speaking into it more so than like a true evaluator, but those big moments, he always found the football. And so, yeah, I think
Absolutely.
that's something.
Yes. Bit higher on him than you, which shocked me a little bit. Not a huge gap like other safeties within this class. Um, I have Akuba at 9. It's pretty much the same thing that you said. I think the main difference there is probably the small frame. I do have it listed as a con, but I don't think it's anything. At least for me, it's not as big of a con as what you have it as. But again, I think he has great burst. He's willing in run support. Again, there's questions about his tackling technique, but what you look for is someone who's willing to get their nose dirty and get in there and do it. I think he's a very instinctive player,
Hmm.
and I'd be remiss to not say he can't absolutely lay the wood. That he has some of the craziest hits. Again, I would be shocked if you're listening to this podcast and you don't remember that Gunnar Stockton hit. But my lord, he made Gunnar Stockton's eyes roll in the back of his head. I mean, quite literally, that is what happened, and it was a clean hit too. Um, but yes, it goes down to that small frame. Question marks about his long speed. He's a twitchy, again, good burst, but doesn't have elite long speed. And again, that tackling technique has a little bit of rise concern for me. But I think the big difference there is a small frame that might separate and explain the gap a little bit between the two of us. Um, my DB12 is another safety. It's Xavier Watts. A lot of fun. I don't think this safety class, first off, before we get into him, gets enough conversation. I think this is a very good safety class, and I think in a couple of years we'll probably look
Hmm.
back on that and be very happy about how most of these safeties turned out. But I think Xavier Watts has good ball skills and instinct, very good zone awareness, and has adequate speed to carry routes down the field. That being said, he is in all caps with like 5 Ds at the end of it, a bad tackler. His technique is bad. He whiffs on tackles. Very bad tackler. I think he has stiff hips, and then again, the block shedding was a big concern for me. Um, I think he projects very well as a single high zone safety, just keeping everything in front of you. But he's again one of those very smart safeties, and you really see it when you watch him play.
Yeah, I have Watts at 8, higher on him than you are, and I think we both see the same things. It's just we're both willing to put him higher or lower based on those things. I thought he was a rangy center fielder with legit speed and excel and NFL level ball skills. The instincts were a noticeable plus. He was a downhill creator. He blitzes his you know what off and fits the run with communication intelligence, but it doesn't mean he's a good tackler. He's not physical. He's a true free safety, single high guy at the next level. Doesn't have play strength and man coverage against bigger body types. Plays to the physicality, but the run defense and the tackling, he has no interest in making those plays, especially in space. And then lastly, he gets antsy and he becomes a boom bust player. If the splash explosives aren't happening with Xavier Watts, you hate that he's on the football field. I promise you that. If those big plays aren't happening, and we talked about it, it reminds me of Eddie Jackson, man. If those highs can be as high as they go, and he could have a game where he gets 2 picks and he's creating, 60 yards of field position off those alone. But there could be games where he has no interest in tackling in space, and it feels like it's losing you a football game, and he has to be pulled off the field. So, yeah, man, I like Watts for what he is, but that's all he is. He is a single high player at the next level, because of his strengths, and that's really it.
Yes. I'm wondering here at 12 if we get our first match and maybe our only match of the list. I'm excited to see. Who's your DB 12?
I had Makuba.
Oh, at 12.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Who's your at 11? My bad. Who's your DB 11?
Jacob Parrish, and I know you didn't watch him, so no match.
Okay.
No match.
No match.
Jacob Parrish out of Kansas State. The pros: physical, mean, and nasty. The athletic ability was on display in trail technique, and he really could stay on top of routes in zone. So those were two very important things for me. He has quick feet and hand technique to stay in phase and man. Gets nasty in the run game. Really just rear his head back and get in there. The cons: he's small, 5'10", 190, very limited length. Could get pigeonholed into a nickel position, which I think would be fine for him. But at the same time, I think he has the ability to play outside. The change of direction and the stop-start ability is subpar for such a short and stout player. You would expect it to be better with his physical profile. And then lastly, the zone instincts, still ways to go to be a consistent starter for me. So overall, I think that I want to gamble on this player because of what he does in the run game and how he just gets after it. But it's going to take some time. And that's why he's at 11.
There you go. Again, one of the players that I did not get the chance to watch, but again, I know a lot of people really do like him. And I know when we were kind of scouting out kind of our top 20-ish guys to watch, you're like, you have to add Jacob Parrish to your list. And he got added, just didn't get the chance to watch him. 11 for me is Trey Amos. I wanted to like Trey Amos more than what I did. I really, really wanted to like him. And again, he's 11. He's going to have a second round grade for me, close to top 50. So it's not a matter of I think he's this awful player. I just didn't like him as much as I expected to like him. I think he has very good foot speed, loose hips, willing in the run support game. And then he has good length and ball skills from him. He has an interesting path. He started out at Bama, and then he went to a smaller college. I forget what that small college was. And then
Lafayette.
There you go. And then he found himself here at Ole Miss. I think he misses tackles a lot. Again, it was a little jarring. I think he's slower to recognize within his zone and his own IQ. And then I think he lacks a recovery speed. There are guys up on the list that I trust a little bit more once you get beat to kind of put yourself in a good position to at least fight for the ball. And I think he lacked that. I think he's a smart player, a fun story. But I am still not in on the first round guy that, some people are kind of talking about him as.
I have him at 7, so I'm kind of sitting where consensus was with him. He was a speedy and urgent athlete, mirroring ability, and he cut off lanes with some of the best in the class for me. I think that is what is really rising him up for me. Good ball skills when reacting to balls on target. Doesn't scream an interception guy, but someone who plays through the receiver and can just eat up PBUs in a game for me. He was a solid press player, squeezes to the sideline with technique and has the play strength to finish in a phone booth. That also kind of plays into the ball skills and attacking the ball. And then last, he's just played a lot of football and he's still only 23. He had over 2,000 snaps. I think he had over 1,100 coverage snaps already in his career, and he's still relatively young. The cons: overly aggressive with his eyes, and it gets him in trouble before the ball gets in the air. He'll play himself out of position too often, making up ground, reaction, whatever you want to call it. It was a noticeable minus for me. And then to your run game point, inconsistent downhill player in the run game, doesn't wrap up, will resort to long arm tackling, and the play strength problem shows up against, just upright, balanced running backs. They can really, really give him a hard time to tackle in space. But Amos was 7 for me, just outside of that first round conversation.
Nice. And who was your DB10?
Kevin Winston Jr. out of Penn State. The pros, long, framey with speed and explosiveness. Plays with a very noticeable motor in the run game, has real trigger intent and doesn't miss tackles, had a 0% missed tackle rate in his one season of contribution with Penn State. He has real versatility, athlete enough to survive as a single high, and has the trigger and the mentality to play the box and nickel. The cons, not an extinguishable player as a calling card, limited ball skills and production, and then the 1 year of contributing in 2023, and he had an early season torn ACL. Still a relatively younger player. I understand why people would want to just gamble on this player, and I expect him to, he could overplay this position at 10 for me, but overall, 9 players better.
Safety 2 for me. He was a guy that I had watched pretty late into the process.
Mm-hmm.
He was definitely ranked a lot lower on the list, a little bit closer to where you have him. I actually have him all the way up at 5. I think he absolutely would have been in the conversation to be the number 1 safety in this class, if not for that torn ACL. Again, the torn ACL did happen. You have to take that into account. I think he has, as you said, a true range to be the center fielder within a defense. I think he is physical in the box, and I think he's another one of these safeties that is absolutely a hard hitter. That being said, I don't know if I would trust him to man up. I don't think those true man skills are there. He does have some tackling consistency issues, and then real ball production. He just doesn't have a whole lot of production when it comes to actually making plays on those balls. And then again, that torn ACL. But I think the mix of his ability to be a true center fielder and really cover everything on the field, as well as being a physical safety, really appeals to me, and that's why he finds himself all the way up at 5 for me. So DB10, one of Matt's guys. I'm sure he will be higher on the list for Matt. I have him listed as AZ Thomas. How do you pronounce his first name?
Azariah. I also have it as AZ.
There you go. Yeah. Azariah Thomas, AZ Thomas at 10. And we'll kind of get into a little bit of a story with him once I'm done with, him as a prospect. But I think he's a lengthy corner who's very physical, likes to press guys at the line of scrimmage. I think he has quick feet. When I was kind of going through cross checks, a lot of people actually had this as a con, and I think his quick feet is getting lumped into as a con because of his long speed, but I do think he shows very good quick feet, good body control, and a willing tackler. Really, when you talk about him, the first thing that comes to mind is that long speed. It's just not there. He ran a 4.58 at the combine, if I'm not wrong. I think he takes bad angles. Again, he's physical at the line of scrimmage, which sometimes can lead to him overextending that and becoming grabby. I think some of that stems from that long speed concern, and I think he's probably aware of that, which makes him more inclined to grab wide receivers as they go down the field. And then his just ability to move laterally and follow some of the routes that have a little bit more breaks in them, like a whip route or so on, was a little bit of a concern for me. But I think he's a long physical corner that has those long speed question marks.
Yeah, I had AZ up at 5. I am as high as anybody's going to be on this player. I know that the size, the length, and the play strength are the calling cards. Physical jamming ability at the point of attack on the line of scrimmage with the physicality and the strong just catch point attack. He has it all. And then to mention the quick feet stuff, the body control and the quick lower body movement skills he has, it was unique for his size for me. What he did in short area stuff. Like, I absolutely agree with you. I think it gets lumped in with the long speed, and it's, willing run defender, triggers with intent, tackles with intelligence, and then he's just uber young upside at 20 years old. And then cons, long speed and recovery quickness can be a downfall. When it gets bad downfield, it looks like a major low light tape. I'll be the first one to admit it. The press still has its quirk in the technique, as physical as he is, and the jamming ability. Sometimes he'll just miss his first, punch at the line of scrimmage, and immediately, because of the long speed, he's down, and it feels like he's trying to make up for it. The run defense needs more IQ, just more intelligence, tackles well and shows the intent, but the pursuit angles and getting stuck on blocks is an issue, especially for his size. And then just more intelligence in match coverage. But yeah, he profiles a lot. Not even the size, but just the long speed concerns, but the short area stuff. He profiles a lot to Lassiter last year. And Lassiter was an immediate starter and played at a very high level for a CB2 on a different, archetype than Stingley. So if A.Z. Thomas is dropped into that role in year 2 as just this cover 3 corner, like, I can just imagine him playing on the opposite side of a guy I liked in Renardo Green with the Niners in the new Travarius Ward role, and he's phenomenal at it. I have no doubt about it. A.Z. Thomas could be a phenomenal player in the NFL. I am absolutely willing to gamble on this player.
Nice. For me, it is that long speed,
Mm-hmm.
and it really pops its ugly head at times on tape. I think if he plays, he has to go to a system that has some very good safeties behind him that can kind of cover up for that mistake. But if you take him for as he is, and put him in the correct position, I think he can succeed very well. And who was your DB9?
9 was Hairston. I'll save you some time. 8 was Watts. 7 was Amos.
Awesome. Well, yeah, 9 for me was Makuba. 8 was Porter. So who was your DB7?
Amos.
Oh, awesome. DB7 for me was Benjamin Morrison. He was a lot of fun. That's another one of those guys. Or no, it wasn't him. Wait, Benjamin Morrison tore his ACL, correct? Am I going crazy? Or was it a hip thing?
No, he had a hip injury, yeah.
Yes, that's what it was. So it's obviously one of the concerns for him, especially when you talk about the things that he's really good at. You like his change of direction, and a lot of that obviously comes from the hip. So how does that injury affect his ability to translate at the next level? And if he's fully recovered, awesome. And that's where I'm going to have him rank. He's a really fun cornerback to watch. I think he does very well high pointing the football. I think he's very patient. I think he has the inside out versatility. There are a lot of times on tape where they saw him kick him inside to play nickel, and he showed the ability to do that. I think he's a good blitzer and has very good technique. I think he's a true technician. Really, the 3 things are that injury, struggles to get off the blocks, and then he's just a lean guy. He doesn't have a fully built out frame. But again, I think he's a very smart, patient technician corner who has very good ball skills.
I had BMO at 4. The pros looks the part as an athlete on tape. shows the fluid body motions in the hips and the footwork mixed with speed and explosiveness to play make, especially in short area stuff. Good instincts matched with technique make him a tough player to shake off when trying to create separation in space. The ball skills and high pointing the ball were a plus. Physicality is noticeable in the run game and mentioned before at the catch point. I think he's just strong up there. And then he's only 21 and he has production behind him. 7 INTs, 12 PBUs in 3 years of contribution with Notre Dame, a high-tier program. But the cons, play strength in the run game and at the top of routes was a noticeable minus. That is just naturally growing into your frame. Closing speed into the receiver was just a tick off, like just a little bit quicker, just a tick quicker when triggering on some of those, cutoff lanes as a corner for me. And then backfield vision and zone gets him caught up in, splash play hunting. I mentioned it with Maxwell Hairston. He has it too. Young guy just looking for the ball, looking for the eyes, trying to find where I need to be, and he can be looked off his spot, and they're especially going to do that in the NFL. And then lastly, you mentioned it, the injury. Didn't finish the season due to a hip injury, and he's not doing any of the, the pre-draft stuff. So how impactful is that injury? We don't know. Could it just be, I know what my stock is, so I'm kind of sitting this out? I don't know, but still something to mention.
Yes, still a rise for concern. Who was your DB6?
Oh my God, this hurt. Jahdae Barron, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Jahdae's fascinating. The pros, high intelligence and excellent ball skills due to his intelligence and instincts, especially in zone backpedal. Noticeable motor flashes in the tackling and the run game effort. Technique is sound in wrap up, and he will thump down into the run fits. He doesn't have fake versatility. He has real versatility as a defensive back. He can play boundary in a pinch. He can be a downhill thumping strong safety if you need him to. Has the range and intelligence to be a free safety if you want him to, but his true position is combining everything together and being a nickel. The cons, the way I described it was fascinating athlete. He ran much better at the 40 than the tape. Got caught chasing and couldn't make up ground in the long speed department, and the length is extremely limited. The recovery quickness and hesitance to make up that ground because of his eyes were just noticeable minuses. And the last thing that really got me is he is a complete projection. With how old he is a complete projection as a man cover player at the next level. Rarely ran it at Texas, as we know, and if I'm projecting him as a nickel, and the length kind of projects him as a nickel, you need to be a good man cover player to, stick at the next level as a nickel. So I'm just interested in this player. It would be, he has the archetype and the build of a guy I loved in Trent McDuffie, but he is not quite the athlete and the man coverage player, or at least I don't know, as McDuffie was. That I don't know if Jahdae's a lock for the first round, personally. That's where I'm at with this player. It's hard to see him going as, the second defensive back or the third, depending on how you track Travis Hunter, because just everything that I'm looking for as a boundary corner, Jahdae kind of doesn't have it. So it's going to be fascinating. He is going to be one of those interesting players this draft for me.
Absolutely. Yeah, he's DB4 for me, so we see him fairly similar. Before I fully get into him, and it was kind of conversation I wanted to say when you were talking about Jacob Parrish. A lot of people tend to throw these nickel guys, these slot corners down the board because they don't play a starting position in the NFL. And that just rubs me, it makes me very mad when people like to throw that in that conversation when it comes to justifying these guys being further down the board. Because in today's NFL, with 3 wide receiver packages, teams are running more slot and nickel looks
Mm-hmm.
than they are running base coverage. So in today's NFL, slot and nickel corners are a true starting position. Again, they run them the majority of the time. So when people try to discredit a player because he is only a slot or nickel player, it makes me a little upset. That being said, Janae Barron is a slot in nickel only player. Again, he finds his way at 4 for me. I do not think he can translate to the outside. Again, we mentioned that McDuffie started out as your nickel player and made his way out, transitioned to the outside. I don't see that in Barron. Again, there's a lot left to be desired in terms of the athlete department of him. But he has played everywhere at his time in Austin. He's played outside. He's played safety. He's found his home now in the slot. So he really understands just the DB position as a whole. And I think that contributes a lot to his instinct and anticipation within those passing lanes. I think he's a willing tackler and has good zone IQ and twitchiness. In terms of cons, again, he's not the athlete, the length, as you mentioned. And then again, he just was not asked to be a man coverage guy. And then again, I think there's a little bit of questions about his long speed. But I think at the worst, you're getting a high quality starting slot corner. But again, I can't quite get there when it comes to projecting him to the outside because of some of his athletic limitations, and that's why he finds his way fairly similar to you at 4. So we'll get into my DB6. This is where it gets fun. This is where we see that the biggest gap that we will have on this list. Matt's 15 guy that he alluded to it at the top of this segment. It's Nick Emanwari. I am in love with this guy. I loved him before the process. And then he had that really good combine, which made me fall in love with him more, kind of blasted him onto the scene fully for everyone. I think this guy is a true freak physical specimen. He is an athlete. Matt made a very fun question that I'll let him kind of get into when it talks about him. But I think he's a plus run defender right now when he enters in the NFL. I think he is a physical run defender, and I think he has a very fast trigger when it comes to going down the hill. But outside of his run ability and his true freak athleticism, that is kind of where those pros stop and the cons do start. I think he's a very stiff athlete. I think he has a very clunky back pedal and foot movement. I think he's very handsy, and as I talked about with Sebastian Castro, he does not have the fully developed zone IQ that you would want out of a safety as well. So he does not offer right now the change of direction that you would want for someone to play man, and he does not have the zone awareness for zone. So I understand why you have him all the way down at 15. Again, for me, it comes to betting on the athlete for him. I think immediately when he steps in the NFL, he would benefit from not really playing at all or playing strictly as a box-only / star backer position where he just primarily works downhill. Because, again, he has a really quick trigger. We saw him jump routes, hit a couple interceptions this year. But that's all of him working forward. When you ask him to cover stuff behind him, that's where that concern happens as of right now. But I think, again, he has the athletic ability to piece everything together. And if he can do that, he can be very, very, very stinking good. But again, he is very much that work in progress. A team that takes him has to understand that he probably will not play right away, and he has to go to a team that develops these guys and really knows how to get the athlete out of him and really kind of inject the more football smarts into him a little bit more. But again, I'm just in love with the athlete that he is, and really banking on that upside into hopefully turning into that a very, very good safety. Right out of college, he reminds me a lot of Jeremy Chin, and that's kind of the projection that I have for him right now. But you're a 15 guy if you want to get into him.
It's ironic, man. You said you took everything out of my mouth, but we have 9 spots different. It's insane. But like, first of all, I don't like being this guy. I don't like being the guy that's like, look at me, I'm skewing from consensus this high. But the I'm not gambling on the athlete as much as everybody else is going to. The pros, easy stuff. Elite athletic profile. Elite. Size, speed, explosiveness, all tapped into a huge frame compared to the position. He triggers and plays the run, and when blitzing with a purpose, he fronts in the tackle game. He is a strong finisher in the tackle game. And then man coverage when lined up in the box was a plus because he is very good at matching body types. The cons, they're all of them. Playing football. Low IQ in terms of vision, making him a pretty frequent slow reactor to plays. Stiff movement ability in open space. He just plays so upright. The pad level, man, like it's always just a herky-jerky movement that I don't like. The range is still limited. Even as athletic as he is, it's just limited range somehow. You mentioned the back pedal, sloppy lower body technique. But I put in quotations, it can be fixed. That, with the right people, he can get a back pedal right. And then, lastly, overrated versatility for me. He's a box safety, period. That's what he is, and that's fine. But just overall, you are gambling on the athlete, and I'm not. That's the difference in our 9 spots, is that I think the ceiling is Jeremy Chin. And I don't know if I'm going to draft that guy where he's projected, especially the first round.
Round.
And it's tough to really get on board with a guy that, if I close my eyes and I just I didn't know anything about him and I just watched him for the first time, I would not expect these athletic, tools that he has, like the stuff that's on the paperwork. The same thing I said about Harrison. He doesn't look like a 4.29 player. Barron, the same thing. Doesn't look like a 4.3 speed guy. Eamon is the same thing for me. And I think he's just pigeonholed into a box safety role. And I think there's a lot of people trying to talk themselves into, if we take him in the first, he could be Derwin. He could be this big nickel. He could be this box safety. He could be this guy who floats around everywhere because he's so darn athletic. And then you realize Derwin has just amazing intelligence and can redirect wherever he needs to get to, and that's why he can play all those positions. Eamon is still far away, and I could easily be wrong. If he taps everything in the athletic ability, you mentioned it, so I'll mention it. But this is imagine if you put a 6'3" NBA athlete and told him to go play safety. That's Nick Eamon for me. So it's tough. Could this guy absolutely make me eat my words? Yes. And I could be totally wrong. And maybe this is me getting back because I got burned on Isaiah Simmons. But just overall, it's hard to gamble on the athlete. That's the only thing. It's all athlete projection, and that's it. And got nothing else.
Well, and that's the beauty in kind of the art of scouting, right? The beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and everyone has different benchmarks and different things that they look for within a prospect. If it wasn't just outright obvious at this point, I love the athlete, the long guys, the big guys at this position, and you don't value that as much as I do. Again, that is really the beauty of scouting. And as you guys see, in this list. I think more so this list than any of the other previous groups that we've done. We've had a bigger separation between players. So it's a lot.
I mean, what was it? I told you before today, or I told you today, like the hardest guys for me to rank was 3 through 6, and you said 7 through 10. That just showed me already that it's like we are going to be so off on each other's board, but that's what makes it fun, man.
Exactly. Who was your prospect 5?
AZ Thomas.
Awesome. And your number 4?
Benjamin Morrison. So I just have my top 3 left.
Top 3. Awesome. I'm just at my top 3 as well. Who is your number 3?
Malachi Starks out of Georgia. The pros, good athlete with the combo of deep track speed, agility, and explosiveness getting to the catch point. He just found his way into, making a mess at the catch point too often to not notice it. The ball skills I mentioned flash a ton, makes so many PBUs in single coverage because of it. High intelligent player, win in zone, finds throwing lanes and just swallows where you want to go with the ball. And then the run defense was a plus. Triggers with intent, strong tackler with sound technique, and doesn't miss tackles in space. Only a 7.2 missed tackle rate according to PFF. And he's a versatile plus because he can play the nickel, but he's likely a free safety. And then the cons, lower body footwork and technique in the hips can be better in zone coverage. Not a high-tier man cover player, even with the tremendous ball skills that I mentioned. That's what kind of makes him a safety for me. The play strength and shedding blocks in the run game was a minus. And then for as good as he is in the run game, some bad pursuit angles pop up pretty often that I didn't love. And that was mostly because he was playing nickel. So I don't hold that too much against him. He's a tremendously young player, a 3-year starter, I believe, at least 3-year contributor with Georgia. So it shows you what Kirby Smart thinks of this guy. And so, yeah, this has been a guy on everybody's radar early in the process. I think we all kind of talked ourselves into like top 5 player. I think everybody's kind of cooled down on that, but he's not quite, the Kyle Hamilton prospect at safety that I feel like that was maybe advertised a little bit, but still a guy I'm going to take in the first round and not blink if I'm in, the late teens into the 20s personally, and I just want a football player who's going to hit and just has the upside. So that's what I thought of Starks.
Yeah, I had Starks at 2, which makes me happy because I think of the same number 1 guy. Mm-hmm. The only reason Starks wasn't 1 was because he plays safety and not corner. If I'm being 100% honest and clear here with everyone. He's still a guy that's going to get one of the few, probably 7 or 8 blue chip tags from me out of this class. I think Stark showed a very good ability to play man coverage. I think he is, a very good tackler. Missed very few, as you said. I think he's a very smart and instinctive player. I think he plays much faster than what his 40 time was. People were blown away that he did not run a crazy 40 time. And again, it goes back to, does the speed you run on the track translate to the speed that you play on the field, or vice versa? Because I think he plays much faster in pads than what he actually ran, and you get into the Nicky Minwari of it. I think it's a reverse. But really the 2 big cons for me was that block shedding, as you said, and then just, again, another clunky backpedaler. But I think he has a true like cornerback 1 man coverage ability. You don't see a lot of that when it comes to safeties nowadays. I think he has the zone IQ and, again, the true man coverage ability, also being a sound tackler to step in and be one of the elite safeties in the NFL day 1. My number 3, which, again, I am going to guess we have them flopped, was Savone Ravel. A guy that I loved going into the season, was really, really disappointed. I remember when you had sent me the text that he got hurt. I about dropped to my knees. Absolutely loved him. For me, again, it goes back to the athlete side of that. I think he's a tall and lengthy guy. He has fluid hips, good long speed, and really showed the plus upside to be a outside blitzer from the cornerback position. The flip side of that is I just think he's a very raw cornerback. I think he has a fine zone IQ, but there's still definitely room for that to grow. I think he needs to transition a little bit better from his back pedal into running down the field. And I think he needs to be more physical when it comes to pressing guys off the line of scrimmage. But again, I think he has all the traits, and he has shown enough already in the football smarts department to be ranked as the third best DB in this class for me. And again, I think if more people were aware of him going into the season and we got a full season of tape from him, people would be much higher on him and much more like where we have it. So,
Yeah, absolutely. So he's interesting because I think I'm gambling on the traits at the quarterback position here. So, yeah, I mean, the traits are off the page for me. Length, frame, speed, all at levels combined with explosive ability and the rare change of direction and short area skills. I think this guy would have an unbelievable, like, just the bottom right corner, like the agility testing, the shuttle, and the 3-cone. I think this guy would he would crush it. I think he would kill it. Never felt out of phase in man coverage and had ball skills when attacked. He reciprocated it and attacked the catch point. Had play strength into routes that he could drive receivers off their routes and into awkward spots where he's dictating. He's in charge, and then he has eye discipline as a deep zone defender. You know, your cover 4s, your cover 3s. The cover 2 was iffy for me. Raw in terms of playing the position effectively. Antsy backpedal. Flat zone IQ, as I mentioned with cover 2, is poor, and the technique at the line of scrimmage is often caught into, bad predicaments. He opens his hips too quickly downfield, leaves himself exposed to the middle of the field too often for me. As I talked about man coverage and how that was a plus, in man match it wasn't good, so that was fascinating. And then he's going to be 23, coming off a torn ACL with 855 total snaps at the Division I level, and that's the American level. So, again, it's a gamble, but what I'm looking for and what I've seen enough from him in the 800 snaps is that I think he has the traits and ability to be a star that, again, like AZ Thomas, I'm going to gamble on. Just the length, the speed, the explosiveness, to be one of those dudes on the outside, at the outside boundary. I'm going to gamble on this player. I absolutely believe I think he's worth a top 20 pick at this point. It's going to be hard to see him be picked top 20 because of the torn ACL, but we're going to find out together, aren't we?
Yes. Then I'll round us home with our number 1 DB prospect. If you can't see it through the course of the podcast, if you look over my shoulder here, big Michigan fan there. That's one Will Johnson. It just comes back to one of the players that I think people were overthinking. At the start of the process, I think most people had a top 5 grade on him going into the class. And then as the process continued, people kind of slowed down a bit on him. And now I think that steam for him is picking back up and probably getting to the spot that it should be. A lot of that has to come from his poor final season. A poor final season, I'll put that in air quotes. He did not play the majority of the season with a quote-unquote injury. If I had to guess, a lot of that actually just stemmed from him understanding where he was going to get drafted, saying, I'm that dude. I'm not going to risk it. I just came off the back of winning a national championship. Why am I going to risk my top 10-ish draft slot because of a nagging injury? It just didn't make much sense for him, which has some of drive concerns in terms of like internal drive to be great for some players. But from the human aspect, I get it. And I think people, again, are overthinking it. But kind of getting into the thing that he does well. I think he has that great size that you expect in are used to seeing when you see your true number one corners within the league. I think he has amazing ball skills. He's actually scored more touchdowns than he's let up touchdowns in his college career, which is a crazy stat. I think he's a good tackler and has very, very good processor when it comes to zone IQ. The one really big question mark for me is that long speed. I would have been really interested to see how he tested at the combine. He didn't, but he is doing some private workouts at Michigan, I think tomorrow, so Thursday, to do that. So I'm interested to see if there's any numbers that come out from that. But yeah, it's the long speed / recovery speed from him. And then he has that gambling mentality that we talked about early on with Dorian Strong. But for the most part, for him, it was calculated gambles. As I said, he scored more touchdowns than he let up against. So he had the good football IQ to know when to break on the ball and make a play on it. But I could see it hurting him at the next level if he doesn't continue to develop that. But again, I think a true blue chip guy. I think in any draft we would be talking about him. He has the great combination of football smarts, instincts, size, ball skills. And again, I think he's just one of those prospects that we've been talking about for so long that people started overthinking a little bit.
Yeah, I agree. I think every single one of these, we kind of fell to the same conclusion on the number one player, which is pretty cool. But the pros, length, size, intelligence to be a high tier player at the position for a long time. Good athlete with enough deep long speed, explosiveness to challenge the catch point, strong physicality down the field mixed with route timing and instincts to derail routes all over the field. The ball skills were a plus. Clearly intelligent in the film room, can telegraph routes coming his way by body language and communication. He could point things out and go, I'm calling my number here. And then the cons, I thought poor pursuit angles in the run game leading to missed tackles, and he gets stuck on blocks. High-end recovery is missing to be truly draft-defining. That's all I really had with him. The pad level was a bit too high, and the toe injury from this past season. He's not doing any draft workouts. The same thing I said with Benjamin Morrison. Is it something that is going to limit, into training camp? We don't know. Could it just be I got my natty, I got my ring, I'm kind of out of here, guys, and I know I'm going to be drafted high, but I thought he would do some, draft workouts to try and solidify as like a top 7-ish player, but ended up not. I still think he is, and I think he's still going to go pretty high in this draft.
Absolutely. Before we run back through our top 15 guys with the order that we gave them, I got a fun question, and I think I know the answer for it. But who is one guy that you have ranked that people are not talking about enough, and you can see outplaying their draft position?
Outplaying their draft position? Ooh. Probably Kevin Winston.
Oh.
Just because, I know I have him lower, but I really think that ACL is going to knock him. And I'll throw in Ravel, too, just because I think that the league is going to look at those injuries and kind of knock those guys off. I think both of those guys are great athletes that they can recover pretty quickly and, make a name for themselves. I think Winston currently, like, the way the consensus board is shaken out, like, what? I had him as safety 3, you had him in safety 2, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think he's going to be underdrafted if I mean, I know one safety for me, he's going to go higher, like lower than, and I'm definitely going to gamble on Winston over him. But yeah, I would go with Kevin Winston and probably Savone Revel.
There you go. Yeah, my answer would have been Kevin Winston as well. Again, you said everything that I would have said or wanted to say about him. The other guy for me, since you had already mentioned Kevin Winston, would have been Darian Porter. I think if he gets in the right DB room and gets the right coaching, I think we might look back upon this draft and say, how did we not piece together that this long, big, fast guy was going to translate to the next level? So, all right. Who was your top 15 in order?
My top 15 in order. 15, Nick Emanwari, South Carolina safety. Yes, that is correct. 14, Dorian Strong, Virginia Tech corner. 13, Darian Porter, Iowa State corner. 12, Andrew Makuba, Texas safety. 11, Jacob Parrish, Kansas State corner. 10, Kevin Winston Jr., Penn State safety. 9, Maxwell Hairston, Kentucky cornerback. 8, Xavier Watts, Notre Dame safety. 7, Trey Amos, Ole Miss cornerback. 6, Jahdae Barron, Texas nickel. 5, A.Z. Thomas, Florida State cornerback. 4, Benjamin Morrison, Notre Dame cornerback. 3, Malachi Starks, Georgia safety. 2, Savone Revel, East Carolina University cornerback. And then 1, Will Johnson, Michigan corner.
There you go. My top 15 is Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech, corner. Sebastian Castro, box safety out of Iowa. Maxwell Harrison at 13 out of Kentucky. Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame. At 11, Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. 10 was A.Z. Thomas out of Florida State, cornerback. 9 was Andrew Makuba out of Texas, safety. 8 was Darian Porter out of Iowa State, corner. 7 was Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame, corner. 6 was Nick Emanwari, box safety out of South Carolina. 5 for me was Kevin Winston from Penn State, safety. 4 was nickel corner, Jahdae Barron out of Texas. 3 was Savone Revel out of East Carolina, corner. Malachi Starks was number 2, safety out of Georgia. And to round out the list at number 1 was Will Johnson, corner out of Michigan. All right, moving on to our last segment of the podcast. So you guys will get 2 more of these after this one. Next week will be our 2-round mock, so make sure you guys are staying tuned for that. Next week is going to be a nice combination of our guys and then a 2-round mock. And then draft day eve is going to be our final mock for you guys. Ryan will be back. We'll have all 3 of us together. The band is back together for that one. And then it's the draft. I mean, it's like 2 weeks away from now at this point, which is crazy that it's, you invest so much time into this, and it's kind of, on one hand, it feels like it's been a very long time, and on the other hand, you're like, it's only 2 weeks away. So, but getting into our mock draft, I think I picked odds, so I think you'll pick odds this time.
You said I'll pick odds, or you pick odds?
Yes, I think you're picking odds because I picked Will Johnson for you guys last week, so that means I was odds last week.
All right, sweet. Cam Ward, quarterback, Miami, pretty easy. I mean, it's just going to be this pick every time, Titans fans, and you're probably fine with it at this point. There's no point in doing any more analysis. If you want more analysis on this pick, go back and watch the other ones.
Exactly. Number 2 for me is going to be Travis Hunter. You can no longer bet on his odds on the team that is going to draft
Seriously?
him. Yeah, you can't bet. At least they've taken them down for the time being. So it'll be interesting. But Travis Hunter again, they have a need at both positions. And you might as well try them both if you can.
Yeah, it's been funny to watch. Like, I know Adam Schefter gets spoon-fed information from like agents and things like that, but like him getting all this information, like the Browns, like a month ago, the Browns are absolutely going to use number 2 on a quarterback, and then it's the Browns are absolutely all in on Abdul Carter, and now there's no way that they don't draft Travis Hunter. I don't know if he's just at the mercy of it. I don't know if the Browns are just effing with him at this point, seeing what he will report, because he is also the one who did the Condoleezza Rice thing with the Browns. So could be a little bit of
Yeah.
that, but yeah, it's been funny to watch him like just talk about where the Browns are gonna go. The Giants, I'm gonna go a little bit different. I think it's probably Abdul Carter here, but hey, let's experiment with Mason Graham here. I think Mason Graham is a good enough player that you put next to Dexter Lawrence, has a different body type, and you could just create one-on-ones all across the line. And frankly, it keeps Thibodeau on the team. If Thibodeau stops you from Abdul Carter, I don't think that's the right choice. But hey, we always do Abdul Carter here. I think mixing it up with Mason Graham adds some spice in our lives.
But Matt, he's so small. He weighed
It's
in
true.
under than what people thought he was. How dare you take him 3 overall?
It's true. It's true.
Ridiculous. Very good player, very worthy of the spot again. Overthinking this guy at this point. Speaking of not overthinking, guys, Abdul Carter, the best player in the draft, just fell into my lap. As the Patriots GM, I would be kind of dumb to not take Abdul Carter here. The easiest draft pick you'll ever see anyone make. They're probably sprinting that card into Roger Goodell as they see his name still on the board at 4.
Absolutely, man. I think, yeah. Carter, there's nothing that has to be said that hasn't been said already with Carter. I think we're both just freakishly blown away by his athleticism and what he could amount to. Like, just if Micah Parsons is the projection, he was a better producer in college than Micah Parsons. So it's fascinating. The Jaguars, I think they can go a ton of ways. I think we do a lot of Mason Graham here. So this adds some, interesting levels. I think I'm gonna go Tyler Warren here, just because I think this is his absolute ceiling as a player, and I think someone's just gonna like him in the top 10, and this is unconventional, maybe, but they lose Evan Ingram. You just want to keep continuing to pile more and more assets into, Trevor Lawrence, your highest paid quarterback, and say you don't love Tedoroa McMillan as much as maybe we do. So
Yeah, the pick I made last week, you won't get any pushback. Brenton Strange will not will not stop you from taking a player of the caliber of Tyler Warren. That's the thing, right? Tedoroa McMillan's still on the board here. Ashton GT's still on the board here. If you guys are not coming from the live stream, we just talked about our number 1 corner here. And it's a pick that I've seen people make more often now. I'm going to go Will Johnson. No, there's no one on that team that is going to stop you from taking him. They just cut Jack Jones as well. So that need just increased for them. And again, I think Will Johnson is one of the blue chippers in this draft. I know a lot of people are maybe come to getting used to taking a little bit of those 2 guys there, but spice it up a little.
absolutely. Absolutely. You know what else is in the news lately? The Jets shopping Brees Hall because they're in on Ashton Genty, and in this mock draft, that becomes reality. So we're gonna have Ashton Genty go 7th overall to the Jets, likely trading Brees Hall. Maybe we work a Brees Hall trade in this mock draft, but I doubt he gets traded for a first-round pick because he has to be paid immediately, and I doubt a team is giving up a first-round asset in this running back class to also pay him. So,
yeah, but I mean, might as well take the best offensive piece on the board here, especially with that news of Brees Hall. And you're making it easy for me. It was an easy pick for me at 4 with the Patriots, and it's going to be another very easy pick for me here at 8. Go and get your quarterback weapons. You have the need. I know you guys just took Xavier Legette last year, but Tedero McMillan, how could you not? He's the number 1 wide receiver here in the class. Very easy selection.
yeah, I completely agree. I feel like we've said that on all our, mock draft shows. Is just like this guy's overthought. I mean, he looks the part in every single way to be a standard X receiver and compete at a high level in the NFL. I know he said as a freshman he doesn't like to watch film, but I think we overestimate how much these guys are thinking about football as freshmen in college. The Saints, continuing the tea leaves, I'm going to go quarterback, and I'm going to go Shedeur Sanders. This one is interesting with the Saints. I have a very investment in the Saints, and I am not in on Shedeur being a top 10 pick. So this one is tough. I think the Saints should be in the business of getting good players and getting blue chippers, and I think Will Campbell is one of them. I think Starks could be one of them. I think, taking a swing on M'Boue is worth it. But there is nothing that benefits the Saints more than getting on a rookie quarterback contract in which that rookie quarterback is good. And if you believe this is your best shot to get one of these guys, get quarterback 2 at pick 9, then, call your shot. Because if he's good and it's right, you're not going to hear complaints from me. But that's my take on the Shedeur thing. I think his odds are the highest to go to New Orleans for a reason, because I think people are finally figuring out after pick 3, there's no spot here, and the Saints are doing a lot of quarterback stuff. They're searching a lot through the quarterback, so it'll be interesting if that happens.
Yeah, as you said, they've down the process as we get closer and closer, they've been linked to a couple of these guys. As you said, they're the odds-on favorite to draft them now. I think at like plus 350 or something like that. Jalen Milroe has came in for a private workout. So the drive is at least there, or at least they're showing the drive to take a quarterback. And one of the best ways to help out a new young head coach is by allowing him to get his guy at quarterback, especially an offensive-minded head coach, and allow him to kind of make his stamp on the organization and say, this is my team, this is what we're going to do. I could absolutely see it happening, much to my dismay, just because I'm in the same boat, not the biggest fan, but again, a good young quarterback on a rookie deal is the most valuable contract in all of sports. So here we are again, the same position that we find ourselves about 50% of the time with the Bears. Comes down to which tackle do you want. There's one that projects a little bit easier and probably has a little bit of a higher of a floor in Armand M'Boue. Or you have Will Campbell, who has the short arms, but probably has the higher upside and has shown the better ability to do it. I'm going to take the guy that has the best probability to be very, very good at that position, despite his short arms. That is Will Campbell. Stop it. We've seen tackles with short arms be just fine in the NFL. Will Campbell.
Absolutely. We keep benefiting the Bears here. It's hard to see the Bears missing all three players in Campbell, Genty, and Membu. I feel like there's a world it happens, and it's a world where, Tedero McMillan falls and things like that, and maybe, Tyler Warren isn't as overvalued as we believe he could be. But yeah, it feels like all these mock drafts, the Bears fall in, just someone falls in their lap to pair with Ben Johnson, their new head coach. This one's easy for me. The Niners, this is Walter Nolan. I think this team I was looking last night at the defensive tackle position for the Niners. For some reason, there is nothing there. And I think if you're building a Robert Salah defense, you need a rotation of guys like Walter Nolan who just pocket push the hell out of the quarterback. So sprint in Nolan. I think this could be an edge too if you love one of the edge players here, but Walter Nolan feels like an easy pick right now.
Yes, absolutely. It's Jerry here at 12. I know Jerry likes to lean into the flash, get a skill position guy to help out. Dak is a lot of what you hear from Cowboys fans right now. But he does like to also draft the trenches. Like, this is not an uncommon thing. He likes to shore up that offensive line. For that reason, Armand Membu is probably the best fit that I see on the board, and I'm going to go with him. Just, again, continue to try to create a very, very good offensive line, have it not become a minus.
Yeah, the Dolphins are pretty ticked off that that's the pick there, because I think with the recent news with Teron Armstead, I think tackle has to be the lean. Mentioned it at the top of the show. The only offseason acquisition at tackle they have made is Mary Borum. So this has to be a tackle. And, I want to take Simmons. I think I'm going to, just because I think he's such a stark comparison to what's on the board right now. But there are limitations. The injury stuff could be an issue early in his career, and especially if you're the Dolphins and you're sprinting him on the field, it could be really bad to start his career. And the only benefit is that if he plays left tackle, it is not the blind side to Tua Tagovailoa. So I'm gonna take Simmons, just fill the need at this point.
Yes. Tyler Warren is always the chalk pick here. And Tyler Warren is no longer here. Jahdae Barron's the best player on the board here, but they don't need help at the nickel. We're going to go safety. We're going to go Malachi Starks. I think this is probably the highest, or close to the highest, that we've had him drafted. There's no one within that backfield of the defense that is stopping you from taking a player that's the caliber of him, and there's a need at the position. Don't reach on other guys and just take what seems to be close to a sure thing in Malachi Starks.
Yeah, I mean, they go out, they sign Javarius Ward, they sign Cam Bynum, they keep loading on Malachi Starks. Just, they are full in building the back end as powerful as they possibly can. I love it. The Falcons, I mean, it's edge rusher. No, it's Jod Campbell. I think he's too good on the board at this point at 15. Even with the shoulder injury, I know there's limitations there, but I'm taking the player for the long haul, for the the 5-year contract, not
Before
maybe he misses. What'd you say?
I was gonna say, is there any possibility that I can intrigue you in a trade up opportunity from 32? But that's all right.
No. Atlanta says
that's all right. Which I don't blame them, especially with their need and the edge rushers that are going to be taken off the board before them. That's my dream pick. As you see the Eagles, flag flying behind me. There's a lot of buzz surrounding Jahad Campbell right now that people are a little bit more worried about his shoulder injury than once thought with his torn labrum. don't overthink it. Is maybe the 1 year really worth passing up on a guy of his caliber? I don't think so. For the Cardinals, I really would have hoped to see Walter Nolan make it this far. He sadly did not. Will Johnson is gone. Kenny Grant might as well, again, continue to shore up the interior of that defensive line. It's in need of theirs. You can slide in and immediately be, a space eater. It was a conversation that we had today about, the benefit of having a guy that truly takes up 2 blocks and how much that benefits everyone else on the defense, from the edge rushing position, the linebacker position. It truly is one of those overlooked positions at times.
Yeah, the Bengals are crossing their fingers, and they're going to get the player they want. Shamar Stewart, athletic freak. You bring in Al Golden to develop defensive players. That is what Shamar Stewart is, an athletic freak that needs development. And so you're going to have to continue to take swings at the defensive positions because you pay Chase and you pay T. Higgins. And I think this is a worthwhile swing at pick 17.
Oh, absolutely. Me and you are much higher on him than consensus. So if they are able to make this pick at 17, I will be creating it as a very good selection for them. A little bit mad that you did take him here. I was hoping that, maybe you forgot about him and he was going to make his way to 18 for me, but we're going to kind of keep it in the same vein. As you'd mentioned, they like to take the more high-value positions. I'm going to go Mike Green here. Just go out, continue to build a very, very good pass rush. Again, it's no Shamar Stewart, but still a very good pass rusher.
Yeah, man. I keep seeing, I love Zabel, man. There's no way John Schneider's doing it at 18.
No.
I've watched this man giraffe for almost a decade. I think it's been more than a decade at this point. He does not do that. So I'm not expecting him to change his mind now. Tampa Bay is interesting because this is a sneaky team that doesn't have a lot of needs. You look at the needs on here, and edge is their number 1 need, and Yaya Diaby and Hassan Reddick is a pretty decent duo. So I'm going to take the swing on the defensive back, who I said I really, really liked, Savone Revel, here to pair with Jamel Dean. You can get him on the field into spurts early. Todd Bowles loves to be in attack and aggressive. I think this guy has the man coverage chops to be able to handle it early. But, again, handle it in spurts, coming off the injury. Don't overdo it. But I think he's worthwhile, a top 20 pick.
Absolutely. And they've shown to at least be okay with drafting this archetype of player. I mean, 2 years ago, they took your guy in Zion. And I think they were totally okay with taking the smaller school, athletic, long player. And that's exactly what Revel is. I mean, if you're the Broncos, you can't be upset with the way the board has fallen. We're going to go out and we're going to get you wide receiver 2 all the way down at pick 20. That's Luther Burden. Another very easy selection for me at this point. You've done some work on the defensive end. You continue to show that up. So might as well go and get your young quarterback another good pass catcher.
Steelers are tough. Man. I think you look. I always wanted the PK thing makes it awkward. I still just want to get another pass catcher in the room because if they do what we all expect, and that's sign Rodgers, they're going for it. And I think you're trying to fill out every need possible. I think there's kind of 2 players here. I like Golden, I like Pierce, and I like Jalen Walker. So I'm going to go with Walker here, a little earlier than we normally do. But You get him in that room, kind of profiles a little bit alongside Alex Highsmith. So if he could figure out and go from a tweener to throwing that athletic ability to the edge position, be another just rotational edge for them, I think it could be a worthwhile thing. We'll see if it happens.
Yeah, I like it. Again, the positions of need aren't, the players that are left on the board aren't really standing out to you. Mm-hmm. So might as well take the upside swing there. You're Harbaugh. There's a position of need here. That being said, for the sake of the argument, I'll have you be this other team. You look down at your phone and you see that there's an LA phone number calling. Did you look at that? It's Sean McVay. They want to move up and they want to get the same guy that you're drafting. What do you think? And I'll have you act as the Rams in terms of the trade compensation scenario. What would the Rams be willing to give up to move up 4 spots to get their guy in Colson Loveland?
If I'm trying, so you're saying the Chargers want Loveland?
Yes.
It'd probably take a 3 next year and then like 127.
And if I'm the Chargers, I am saying send that into the commissioner's office.
Yeah, I think the tax on that has to be ridiculous if you both like the player. I don't know how many times we've really seen that. I mean, kind of last year because Minnesota moved up that 1 pick and traded a lot of day 3 capital to move up 1 pick to secure McCarthy over the Broncos. So I think it would have to be something outlandish like this, and this looks like an overpay from the Rams' perspective. But if the Chargers want the same exact player, maybe for grins, we can send over pick 199. We know that pick turns out to be Hall of Fame status. So, but
yeah,
if that's the trade, again, we keep doing it. We keep doing the thing, but it continues to make too much sense. So, no, I like it.
Exactly. From the Chargers' perspective, would Harbaugh love to have had his guy in Colson Loveland? Of course, but you have other needs. If you get a 3rd-round pick to move back 4 spots and take another position of need, why wouldn't you? So
yeah.
Anyways, your pick at 23.
Yeah, the Packers are interesting. I mean, this is, do you believe Jahdae Barron can play on the outside? No, I don't. I'm going to go down, take my guy, A.Z. Thomas here. I think they need a guy to really step in and take over that spot that Jair is likely to be exiting. I think that's kind of the writing on the wall at this point. So I want to fill it with a high upside and a guy who can play on the field quickly in a pretty cornerback-friendly scheme.
Yeah, absolutely. They have that need, and especially if me and you both don't project his ability to play outside. It makes sense for Jahdae Barron. I could be overthinking a guy here, but who is the nickel for the Vikings? Because I know Byron plays outside for them now.
I mean, I see Metellus mostly there.
Yeah. We're gonna do it. We're gonna do Jahdae Barron. We can move.
Yeah.
Josh Metellus be a little bit more of a box guy for them. And at this point, you're taking the best player available. You're in a position that you can do that because there's no glaring needs for you. And just take the best guy here. And it's not, I love Josh Metellus. Again, as you can see the Michigan flag behind me. But he's not going to stop you from taking him. And Josh Metellus is a good enough player that he can find a role somewhere else within the defense.
Absolutely. I think that this would be a good spot for Barron. If you can come in and have an ideal plan for him in the nickel, I completely get it. And with the way Flores just sends the house with his guys, Barron's going to fit like a glove. The Texans. So in a TikTok today, I said the floor of a player is this pick. And I always take Ibuka here, so we're going to take that player that I was talking about from Oregon. I think this guy, I don't know where, I can't predict where this guy is going to go. The gut feeling is he's going to go high. Because a guy with his raw athletic tools and how good he is as a pass blocker, those guys fly off the board. So we're going to find out where he goes. Right now, pick 25 is where I have him slotting in, but anywhere where, a team can just slot in a tackle, I think Pittsburgh would be one that thinks about it. The Packers are always a possibility to take O-line, but here, at his absolute floor for me, is Connor Lee in Houston.
Yes, absolutely.
The
Again, they... Well, I'm wondering who you're referring to when you say that guy, because I had someone in mind, but who did you have in mind?
I had Ibuka.
Okay, so I have the same position, and it was really between Ibuka and Golden for me.
Okay.
The only issue with Ibuka is I'm wondering if the skill sets between him and Ladd overlap amongst each other too much. And it really comes down to how far do you guys have these separated on your board. If you have Ibuka in a different tier, then take Ibuka. I have Ibuka and Golden in the same tier. And since the skill sets are going to be different from one another, I'm going to go Golden. But it would be funny to see Harbaugh draft an Ohio State guy.
No, yeah, that'd be interesting because I'm thinking about it like the way they run the ball and the way they are so physically sound. I think they would prefer that attitude of Ibuka to Golden, and maybe that's the tiebreaker. Something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can go wrong there. If you want the speed and verticality, you go Golden. Ravens, I'm taking Table here. I think again, I want it to happen. I'm low-key Ravens fan because of Lamar. Pairing one of my favorite draft players in the entire draft with him, and just the way he can get out in space in the run game would add even more elements to what they could do in the run game. So Zabel makes a ton of sense here.
Oh, absolutely. Again, Zabel's one of those players that has such a wide draft range. I could see someone taking him at the back end of the first round, or I could see him falling to the 40s. So it really is interesting to see the team that takes him. But yeah, absolutely love that pick. At this point, we've talked about it enough. I'm sure I could not say a single word, and you'd be able to make the exact selection that I would want here for the Lions. As he is doing it, it's Donovan Ezeraku. They have the need at edge. They need someone that can get after the passer. We saw it when Hutch went down, and Ezeraku's here. It's almost a perfect fit here. I would absolutely love it from a Donovan Ezeraku fan. A little bit sad from the NFC fan, but love the fit and player here.
Absolutely. Washington is interesting because, I'm looking at, tackle, because I know they like Brandon Coleman out of TCU they drafted last year, but they also have thought about kicking him over to the right side. They have the injury to Cosme already at right guard, so they're thin there already, and I think a guy like Donovan Jackson can play in a pinch on either side, but at the same time, the intriguing of just taking James Pierce Jr., like the devil on my shoulder, is it's convincing me to do it because I think this player is too good for this stock. Again, the interviews and the character concerns continue to be is the most damning thing of this player. But it's going to be fascinating to see where he gets drafted. I still have him in the first round because I think he's a first-round player, and I'm going to take him here. But, again, this is a guy that with a crazy draft range. You talked about Zabel a minute there. Like, what were we mocking James Pierce early in this? In March? We were mocking him in, like, at 9 to the Saints.
Yeah.
And there's some people who put him at 60 to the Lions. So it's fascinating with him.
Absolutely. So speaking of the devil on your shoulder here, I kind of want to go Hampton here. I kind of want to go Hampton here. For those who are, you at first glance you look at it and you're like, Marion Hampton to the Bills. What? That doesn't make any sense. They already have James Cook. But if you've been keeping up with the news, they just they do not want to re-sign him, especially at the price tag that he is asking for. He put his house up for sale at Orchard Park. And it's a pick that we haven't made, and I think they're a good enough team that even if you do keep James Cook around for another year or so, you can still work in Amarian Hampton into the offense and get another playmaker here. A fun pick that I have not seen at all, but with everything, in light of James Cook, I'm going to do it.
How crazy would that be? How crazy would that be if we had the Jets take Genty to trade Brees and the Bills take Hampton to trade James Cook? And that's the thing. I mean, I think we were at a point where the running back market was at a favorable price for teams, and now with Saquon and Jacobs and all these guys getting paid, now these younger guys are going, hey, we also want to break the market in theory. So give us the coin. And they're saying, Amarian Hampton's way too good at pick 30. The Chiefs, they're debating between which Ohio State prospect to pick. Do you want to take Ibuka, the quarterback, or the receiver, quarterback's best friend, or do you want to take Donovan Jackson, who also would be quarterback's best friend? I'm going to opt to the lineman, the inside-outside versatility. I'm sniping your pick here. Absolutely. But I think the inside-outside versatility for him makes a ton of sense for the Chiefs, who just traded away a guard, who have Jalen Moore they just paid as their left tackle. They need another guy in the room.
Yeah. No, I absolutely love that pick. I can't say anything. That's a pick I would have wanted at 32. And again, continue to build that offensive line that was a bit of a sore spot
I just
for
want to
the stretch of the season.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So I was talking about the devil on my shoulder with James Pierce. Is there one at rank 27 who's doing the same thing to you? Because that's just what your team does.
Okay, so it's funny that you say that because that's the exact pick that I am gonna make. You look at the board and you say, well, we have need at the position. He has a red G on his helmet, and he's good enough to be taken here. I mean, Howie loves his Georgia guys.
I mean, they're looking at the board going, there's no red G's close to him.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna.
Anybody like Jared
absolutely.
Wilson?
Yeah, that's an easy pick for me. That's the pick I would have went. So I'm glad that you asked that question because it absolutely is the devil on Howie Roseman's shoulders right now. Yeah. This is the last mock draft that you guys will see from the both of us. The last first round mock draft that you will see from just the both of us. And then next week will be our 2-rounder. So, but yeah, as the prospect rankings came to an end here, or the positional rankings came to an end. We still have kind of one more prospect rankings segment for you guys next week. I think the funnest one of them all, the the My Guys. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Over the course of listening to all of this, I'm sure people can at least guess a couple of mine, a couple of yours. But there are definitely names to be talking about that you guys have not heard about on that. But anything to say to the fine, beautiful listeners before we let them go?
I think, prefacing this early, I think next week's 2-round mock draft, just because it's 2 rounds and it'll, like, we already ramble as it is, I don't think trades are going to be necessary, especially because I want to save trades for the ideas that Ryan is conjuring up in trades right now. I want to save all of that for the Draftmas Eve show. So next week's, like, 2-round mock draft, no trades, I think will be, necessary so we can have what Ryan is concocting right now.
Yes, absolutely. So, but make sure you guys stay tuned for that. As always, we would like to thank our sponsors, Spotify for Podcasters, Regional Radio Sports, and Uppercuts Grooming. And we will see you guys at the same time next week. Thank you.